The year is 1987, and hip-hop music starts to break away from its old-school foundation, and a new school era emerges. This era is fueled by innovation, Black consciousness, and diversity in sound and participation. For many, this is arguably hip-hop's most creative period, the Golden Era. Covering the period from 1987 through 1984, the series will focus on the Golden Era and cover several specific influential albums and their impact on the hip-hop generation and the generations that follow. Yeah. What's going on, world? We're back. It is All Things Black with Garland and Calvin. We're coming almost to the close. We got one more episode left of the Golden Era special podcast that we've been doing, looking at several albums from the Golden Era period. We'd like to thank you for joining us. You can see this on YouTube, hear this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all your social media podcasting platforms. Please get in, join us, leave a like, leave us some comments, all those great things. Like to know that you're listening, like to hear your comments and everything of what you think about what we're discussing. I do get some feedback. Sometimes people love it. Last week, or actually a week and a half ago, we were talking about De La Soul and talking about how De La was one of the first groups to have, really the first group that introduced the hip hop skit to the albums. And so we were talking about that and a couple other different things, little gems we were dropping. And so there's a lot to get here, man. And so hopefully you're tuning in, refer a friend, a hip hop head that loves talk like this. We love to get you in. I'd like to introduce our co-host for these special podcasts, our special guest featuring DJ Wisdom Beats. What's going on, Chris? How you feeling, sir?
I'm doing okay, G. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I like to dedicate this episode to my mother-in-law. She just transitioned. That's why we did not record last week and all this. Not quite suddenly. She was in her 90s, but, you're never ready. And so, we thank God for her presence in our lives, all the stuff that she did in terms of family. I often used to tell people if there was no if I didn't have a mother-in-law, that would not be my wife. And so, I'm thankful for that because she birthed my future. And so, Mom, rest well. Keep my family in prayer, my wife, my brother-in-law, Lamont, my children and all. And she had a lot of extended family as well. And so we'll be having her final celebration next week. But things are well, brother. Thank you for checking in with me. Y'all got to follow DJ Wisdom Beats. Is a great follow on Instagram. Follow his stuff. He's worked with artists. He's always DJ. If you're in the North Carolina area, you down there, and would that be considered Western Carolina, the Western North Carolina area, or you
the other direction? Like Western Carolina would be closer going to Asheville, but I'm actually closer to like Greenville and the Outer Banks and Elizabeth City, Greenville.
Kind of like the eastern part.
Yeah, so I'm the eastern North Carolina, so I'm in the boondocks now. I'm in a place called Rock the Bells, so I always make a Rock the Bells quip about where I'm located now. But most of my gigs and most of my events, I'm still in the Triangle area, so I still have nothing but love for like Raleigh, Durham. I'm in Charlotte every once in a while, Fayetteville. So I travel the state, so I put a lot of miles on my expedition right now.
All right. It's not the Excel, though. You got to tune into last week's episode to understand
do not want to
about the Excel.
That Excel that did not excel on the highway. Yes.
Baby girl with a Honda Excel. And so,
oh my Lord.
Pull up last week's episode and y'all see what we're talking about with the Honda Excel. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. Early on the morning of Sunday, March the 3rd, 1991, Rodney King and two of his friends were driving a 1988 Hyundai Excel in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. At 12:30 a.m., two officers noticed King's car speeding on the freeway. They pursued him with lights and sirens, and the pursuit reached 117 miles per hour while King refused to pull over. King left the highway and the pursuit continued through residential streets until officers cornered him in his car several miles later. The first 5 Los Angeles Police Department LAPD officers to arrive on the scene were Stacy Kuhn, Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wynn, Theodore Bresno, and Rolando Solano. What happened to King during this traffic stop, which was broadcast across the world, would spark a national outcry against police brutality. I don't know why I can't talk today. Police brutality. But for many Black people, this was not something new. 2 years prior to this, there was a rap song that spoke on incidents like this happening daily in their neighborhoods. Most people did not acknowledge the impact of this song until they saw the Rodney King beating on TV. But many were quick to acknowledge that it wasn't merely theater in this song about the police, but it was real. The song was Fuck the Police, and the group was NWA, Niggas with Attitudes. And so Straight Outta Compton is the second studio album by hip-hop group NWA, released on January 25th, 1989 through Priority and Ruthless Records. It was produced by NWA members Dr. Dre, DJ Yella, and Arabian Prince, with lyrics written by Ice Cube, MC Ren, and the DOC, alongside contributions from others. The album's lyrics depict the conditions of life in Compton, California, while also expressing hostility towards rival groups and law enforcement. And so, like we always start off, man, we like to talk about where we were around that time. Now, last week's album that we reviewed, 3 Feet High and Rising, that was in 89. This was kind of earlier in 89. Both of them were early 89 releases. But we put this in 90 because really the impact of it really was probably not felt until that following year, once it really started to grow. And so in 1990, what were you doing in 1990?
1990, working on music, working in a call center, and getting ready to go to Compton. I didn't go to Compton until later in the year. I think in that summer. I started that summer semester. But working on music, had a relationship with my ex-wife now, met her, and of course, that 1988 Hyundai Excel that you were just speaking of, there must be some bad karma with that type of vehicle, because that's the vehicle that I had at the time and everything. That was an 88 red Hyundai Excel. So, yeah, you just being a 19-year-old, going, 20-year-old in 1990 and everything, and just finding my way when it came to this thing called hip hop, of course. Now, what about yourself? Now, what were you up to?
Certainly. I was in my 3rd semester of grad school. I graduated in spring of 1989. On a humble, I had gotten into graduate school at Coppin State. I had a friend who was from Baltimore. We both were psychology majors. It's probably, one of my best friends. Her name was Doris Patterson. And Doris was, one day I was just walking across campus. We just happened to bump into each other. I'm not sure where she was going, but I passed across, which was not unusual. And she's like, what you doing when we graduate? And I was like, well, I'm not sure. I'm trying to find a job down here in the Hampton Roads area, or, just going to go back home after graduation and see, what I can find. And she's like, well, you should consider graduate school. I got into this program at Coppin. My mother knows the department chair, and maybe we can help you get into the program. And I was like, really? I never thought about grad school before. I knew my grades was not at that level, pretty much. And she was like, well, you never know, they might let you in. And so her mom arranged an interview for me. I went home about 2 weeks after that conversation. And maybe a week or two later, they accepted me, man. And that summer, I was going to graduate school. And so I started that summer in graduate school, did a summer semester, fall semester. So I was in the spring semester. I think I just got a geo tracker. So yeah, I was balling. I had the Honolulu blue Geo Tracker
That's the
with
same color. My best friend, the one that I always talk about, that was the MC in our group. Yeah,
yes,
same color Geo Tracker, but he had the retractable roof and everything now. So
yes.
man, we had that tracker everywhere. We went to the Million Man March with that tracker. We went up and down the road with that. He had the same tracker. I wish we would have rode his tracker. I don't actually. He didn't have the
Up
tracker
to
at
New
the
York.
time. Exactly. I think he got the tracker the following year, but that's the exact same tracker he had now. It's funny how we probably crossed paths walking across campus at Coppin because
Probably.
I started that summer. I actually was part of the inaugural honors program.
Okay, McNair Scholars.
Ronald E. McNair honors
Yeah, the
program.
McNair Scholars.
I
Yeah.
was the first inductee into that program. I wish I
Wow.
would have completed. But yeah, that's exactly it
Wow.
now. So it's a small world that we were actually walking
Very
across
small.
that campus probably at the same time and really didn't even realize it.
Yeah, they say Baltimore's tiny town, and so that's what's up,
Baltimore.
y'all. So, Baltimore, and so yep, I was planning to graduate. I think I had a job, or yeah, I was working at that point, and I just started dating my now wife, probably later that spring
Hmm.
around graduation. And so yeah, man, it was a great time and all. Yeah, I used to love that tracker, bro. I snatched that top off in a minute. You would have thought I had a booming system in it. I just had the factory system in it, but
That's
you couldn't
okay.
tell me it didn't crank. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I
Put the
had the
cassette
cassette.
tape in. I know you had a
Oh, come on,
gang of
bro.
cassettes.
I had the cassettes. I'm gonna have to bring the box up on the next episode, on the last episode, and so show everybody the collection of tapes. And yeah, man, you can't tell me nothing about that Geo Tracker.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Oh
that was
wow.
1990 for me. And
That,
so now this album, we know that it was Dr. Dre. He was the main producer, and we're gonna talk about production in a minute. But there was an album before this. A lot of times, I know most people, and as a matter of fact, in my research, I did think this was the first NWA album, but actually, the first NWA album was a debut split compilation album called NWA and the Posse that was released in
hmm
1987. Now, I don't think a lot of people listened to it, but it allegedly went gold. And I think it had Boys on the Hood in there. It had Eight Ball. It had a couple hits that they remixed
Right.
on the Straight Out to put on the Straight Outta Compton album.
Hmm.
And the other album that came out before this was the album that we talked about that we love, Easy Does It. Now, Easy Does It was Easy E's uh, solo album, was released in
Hmm.
1988. Now, most people believe it was that Easy Does It album that really paved the way for Straight Outta Compton. Now, when
Hmm.
you think about that Easy album, you kind of agree with that statement.
Yeah, it paved the way. It definitely, it really did. Now, even though the lore of Easy recording that album, it probably was like fingernails on a chalkboard when it came to him because
Yeah,
he was a he was a drug dealer. He was not an MC, but they
right.
crafted him. They did the Motown on him. They really molded him to be able to. They did a lot of punches, and for people that don't know, if they're not into like recording music, he would record one line, they would pause it, then he would say the next line, pause it, and they basically
Tape
puzzle.
that together.
They put
Hmm.
it together. They put that together, and when you listen to it, it seems seamless. But if you do that many punches through just 16, 16 or 32 verses or what have you, that's painstaking. It really
Right,
is. It really is. But
right. Yeah, that album, I agree with you. It wasn't that. We ain't gonna sit here and say Easy E was Eric. It was Rakim. We ain't
no,
gonna say he
no,
was KRS-One,
no.
anything like that. He was not.
But he was
But
charismatic, and we
he's
have to give a lot of kudos to Ice Cube, of course, now because he was the pen behind those verses and everything for the most part with Easy E.
Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the track list, and you have Boys in the Hood. They did a
Mm-hmm.
remix of that. That was on the original NWA and the Posse. Cube wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
Easy Does It, which was the title song. That was a oh my God, a Bootsy Collins sample.
Mm-hmm.
We Want Easy. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's from Bootsy Collins. MC Ren wrote that. Well, Easy
Mm-hmm.
Does It, actually, no, We Want Easy is another song. Easy Does It was a different sample. And so We Want Easy, that's actually the Bootsy Collins sample. And so that also had Ren and Dr. Dre on it. DOC wrote that. And
Mm-hmm.
Easier Said Than Done, Dr. Dre wrote that. And so, yeah, he had a couple little joints on here. They came off kind of slick, and it kind of like, people start to pay a little bit more attention to the West Coast, and we're going to talk about West Coast rap in a minute. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get it now. Although the West Coast has some artists, I mean, you had Ice-T, you had World Class Wrecking Crew, you had Too
Mm-hmm.
Short, and you had King T. Excuse me, you had a couple other out there, but most of the rap at that time was coming out of New York City. And
Right.
so, as our ears was mostly New York because we're on the East Coast, what were your feelings about West Coast rap when it really started to come into, I won't say it was the mainstream, but at least the rap mainstream, meaning that it started to be played in the East. You start to have people like really take notice of it. And so when, were you a West Coast rap head? Was it like, oh man, it's just strictly New York? Anything else is whack.
No, I can't even front now. Lyrically, you know, it was lacking in certain areas, but we started noticing with a Cube or MC Ren was very underrated to me. The DLC is really when I noticed that someone, and really he really wasn't even from the West Coast, but
Right,
everybody you portrayed him as a West Coast MC. That's
right.
when I really started taking notice that yeah, there's definitely some dudes out here that can really spit. But I didn't give as much credence to the lyrical side. It was more the actual content and the shock value with what they were doing. But the production really made it appealing now. So the production was here, the lyricism was here, but they found a way to meet in the middle now. And when they met in the middle, that's when Middle America really caught on.
Definitely. I think I agree with that. It's crazy. I remember when the album came out, but I'm sure I did not buy it until months later,
Yeah.
until I heard Eff the Police and I heard the other songs on the album. And then we started to see videos as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, oh, okay, this is nice. But I have to admit, outside of Ice-T, I really was not checking for West Coast,
Right.
because you were getting so much quality and everything was so New York based. That's pretty much what it was all about. It was like New York, New York. I mean, also West Coast, you had Hammer, and so it still was kind of, I won't say it was cornballish, but it was just different. The,
It
the
was
the
different.
presentation was different,
Mm.
and we just thought everything, and we were brainwashed that all the good stuff comes out of New York. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
you
Ears
know,
are definitely trained to that New York
yeah,
sound and everything. So,
yeah,
and I was a very hardcore boom bap New York
I
East
was gonna say
Coast,
that.
individual and everything. So it took a while for the my ears to get trained to something different and everything. So NWA definitely opened me up to some possibilities, and then Souls of Mischief really showed me that
Sure.
they can really MC out here on the West Coast. They are on par with other MCs, but NWA they you could see that the potential was there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Probably in that part, Chris, I would probably say the West Coast, it wasn't super lyrical,
Right,
at that point. So
right.
yeah, this is before Souls, this is before Casual and
Hmm.
Alcoholics, groups like
Exactly.
that you can put in the same class with a Tribe Called Quest and those people
Mhm.
that were in native tongues and things like that. And so it was it was a lot of storytelling, it was very gangsteristic, it definitely was on the cusp. It was like they had lyrics. It was like a little Luke with a West Coast feel with it, in terms of, you know, uh, the Two Live Crew. It was always sexually lyrics. It was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
gangster, but it wasn't not something necessarily that jumped out to you. And I probably would say it was this album that really put the West Coast officially on the map.
Oh, most definitely. Now
Yeah,
it really did. Now, I mean, it opened the floodgates, I think.
yeah, definitely. And then after that, you start. Everybody's a gangster. You had all these groups coming out. Compton's Most Wanted. One time gaffled them up. Now that was my joint right there.
Above the law.
Above the law.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you start seeing that, and you start seeing the associate groups as well start
Mm-hmm.
to, people that was in the crews, they start to get album deals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to see them coming to the market as well. As a matter of fact, man, while we're talking about some 1990 hip hop, man, let's talk about a couple albums that came out that year. You had, let's see, Lord Finesse and Mike Smooth, the Funky Technician.
Mm-hmm.
MC Hammer, Please Don't Hurt Him. As a matter of fact, I think Hammer had one of the biggest selling albums that year. He had You Can't Touch This, as a matter of fact, was on that particular album. And so that was a big hit for
Mm-hmm.
Hammer. Doug Lazy, that was the hip hop club.
Yeah, that hip
And so,
house.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, hip house. Yeah, that's the word. That was hip
Yeah.
house. Doug Lazy, he was from PG or DC.
Yeah,
He was from that
he was
area. He
from
was from Maryland.
he was from the area, as they say. So yeah, he was
Yeah,
from
he was from
DMV.
Washington D.C., and so that was the craze of the hip hop. And so you had Doug Lazy because you had Brothers, Girl I House You. That was
Mm-hmm.
a big one of the, probably the first big hip house song. And you
Mm-hmm.
had a couple songs in the market trying to capitalize on that. You mentioned Above the Law, Living Like Hustlers. That
Mm-hmm.
came out. Above the Law, KMG, Go Mac, and DJ Total Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were down with NWA.
Yeah.
Rodney O and Joe Cooley. They were
Mm-hmm.
from LA. They were from out there. They came out. Kid and Play, they released their second album, Funhouse, Salt and
Mm-hmm.
Pepper, Black's Magic. Now, this is a great album. Probably could have talked about this album. Digital Underground, Sex Packets. Now, Sex Packets, Do What You Like, the whole Humpty Hump thing,
Mm-hmm.
Shock G, that was an outstanding album. As a matter of fact, I think, in terms of talking about ecstasy, and, you had the whole premise was you had this sex packet, and you take this
Mm-hmm.
packet, and you like envision yourself with Vanessa Del Rio or
Exactly.
Seika or something like
Yes, sir.
that. And
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
underwater rhymes. Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot of Gutfest '89. You had a lot of joints on that. That was a great album.
Introduced the world to Top Tupac. So
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Now Pac wasn't on that album, but he was part of that crew, and of course he would
Mm-hmm.
be on the next album. And
Right.
same song. Let's see. Three Times Dope, their second album, live from
Mm-hmm.
Mac Nicholas Land. That didn't do too much. We get the debut album of A Tribe Called Quest, People's Instinctive Travels in the Path of Rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Booyah Tribe, Funky
Oh
Nation.
man, I forgot about
Yeah,
them. Oh man.
yeah. So yes, you start to see these West Coast groups. These are the Samoan brothers, the Booyah
Mm-hmm.
Tribe. PE, they dropped Fear of a Black Planet. That's their
Mm-hmm.
third album. Let's see. Audio 2, they dropped. Oh, X Clan, To the East Blackwoods. This was kind of jumping on the Afrocentricity was kind of about to cycle out in a little bit, but they still, got this album out. Now, this is crazy. Ice Cube, after dropping this album in '89, Ice Cube is a solo artist the next year in '90, and he drops America Most Wanted. Okay, and
Incredible album.
so
Incredible album.
incredible album. This is what happens when you take West Coast gangster rhymes and you put it with East Coast producing with the Bomb Squad.
Exactly. That was
I
it.
mean, yeah, that was the perfect marriage. I mean, the
Synergy
Bomb
is.
Squad, yeah, the synergy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was a great album. I think Chuck D was on that album. A couple other things. We get K Solo also dropped that year in '90. Tell the
Mm,
World My Name.
mm,
Spelling it out. K Solo.
Hellbound.
Spellbound. Poor
Mm.
Righteous Teachers. Holy Intellect.
Yes, I love that
And
album
so,
right there. I
yeah,
love
we
that
start seeing the kind of like the 5%er
album.
uh, start to knowledge starts to drop into the. I mean, we was already getting it with Rakim, but we start to see more groups like that. Like I mentioned, Compton's Most Wanted. It's a Compton thing. Eric B and Rakim, they dropped their second album, Let the Rhythm Hit
That's
'Em.
the rhythm hit him.
I think they had Follow the Leader on that, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not mistaken. And so, yeah, that was In the Ghetto. That was that joint on there. That was
Mm-hmm.
also one of the albums. Let's see. Boogie Down Productions drops Edutainment. And so you
Mm-hmm.
see this transition of KRS from, kind of like the New York gangster rap to, being a spokesman, being a organizer and all those things. And so you had some speeches by Kwame Toru on here and all those things. D Nice, he dropped this album, Call Me D Nice. Just call me D
I
Nice.
copped that album. It was actually nice. I liked that
Yeah,
album. It was,
I had it on cassette, Taking Out Your Suckers and You Don't Know How I Did It. Yeah. And so and Vanilla Ice to the Extreme also drops. And
I did not have that album.
no, I did not have
No,
that
I
as
did not
well.
have it. Sorry. Sorry.
And LL Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great album.
Yes, it was.
Lakim Shabazz, Run DMC, Back from Hell.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you had a couple joints out here. Big Daddy, A Taste of Chocolate. That's he had
Mm-hmm.
already transitioned into being a pimp. And so you had some EPMD, Business as Usual.
Mm-hmm.
So and CNC Music Factory, you had Gonna Make You Sweat. So you had Things to Make You Go in that album. And I got an interesting story
Please
about
tell.
CNC. The rapper in CNC Music Factory, Freedom Williams, he went to Hampton University.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we had the same major. He was a psychology major. And at the time, he presented himself like a LL Cool J type of disciple. He wore Kango.
And go, try to
Yeah,
be cock
he
diesel
wore,
type dude. Yeah.
he wore Flavor Lee's, Kango, BBD,
Mm-hmm.
Shellhead, Adidas. I mean, very Run DMC, LL Cool J ish type.
Mm-hmm.
He's from New York.
Right.
And so I never forget, I was talking to a classmate and they was like, yeah, did you see Freedom on the box? I was like, that was a video station, y'all. It's called The Box. You would
Mm-hmm.
call in and order videos. And I was like, no. I was like, Freedom from Hampton? She was like, yeah.
Mm.
Um, he's with some group now, CNC Music Factory. I was like, what? And I went and ordered that joint. And I was like, oh my God, he's up in here.
Oh wow.
And first of all, Freedom, I never knew that was his real name. I thought
You
I
thought
thought
it
it
was
was
a
his five.
nickname?
I thought it was his 5% name because
Right.
he carried like he was a 5%er when we were in
Mm-hmm.
college, right? Knowledge is help. And so I thought Freedom was like, they all had different names, Freedom Culture, this, that, and the other, right?
Right, right.
And so when they talk about Freedom Williams, I was like, he had a last name?
That's hilarious. That was
Yeah,
hilarious.
bro. So yeah. So that's my brush with a one hit wonder. I went to college with. I had two brushes with one hit wonders in life. One was Freedom Williams. The other, they were not a one hit wonder, but they made a song that was a one hit wonder. Girl, you know it's true. The New
Mm.
Marks. And so I went to middle school with probably like 3 or 4 of the group members of the New.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, man. And so when we talk about NWA, we're gonna talk about production in a minute, but let's talk about Ren and Ice Cube. We know we already kind of talked about DOC, and you gave DOC a lot of big props the last time we recorded, basically saying that that album, his debut album, was kind of like the West Coast album of Nas. It's like a West Coast Nas in that sense, that first album. Now, is it safe to say that Ren and Cube are hip hop's first acknowledged writers?
Um,
I mean, you don't have to agree with me. I'm
no,
curious.
no,
What do
no,
you
no.
think?
I want to be factual because I know that with the Sugar Hill Gang, we all know that
Right.
Big Bang had
Kaz.
they took Kaz's rhymes, and I'm trying to think if it was readily knowledgeable
It was
that
not.
that at that point now. So I would say probably Ice Cube and Ren, um, were some of the first that they acknowledged because it was taboo to write someone else's rhymes or to recite someone else's rhymes and everything, or ghostwriting as they would call it now. So that really was a taboo subject. Not so much now, but back then, if you weren't writing your own rhymes, you weren't a real rapper, you weren't a real MC. But it was acknowledged that they put the pen to paper for Eazy-E, and I really can't think of
And
too
for
many.
Dre.
Oh yeah, exactly, and for Dre as well. And I really can't remember too many instances prior to that with someone penning rhymes for someone else, and it being acknowledged, I guess.
Yeah, and that's how I came up with that because yeah, I don't think I mean, we didn't know um that Big Daddy Kane wrote Picking Boogers for Biz
Right, right, right. Or have
or
a nice day for Sean
have a
Taylor
nice
now.
right. We did not know that. We did not know that, really we guesstimated that Run DMC wrote the rhymes for License to Ill for Beastie Boys. But
Hmm.
Beasties were in the culture. They probably could have wrote them themselves, but I think they did get an assist from Run DMC. So I don't think across the board, like you said, it was kind of taboo-ish that,
Hmm.
hey, somebody else wrote your rhymes. And we always put out this thing that oh, this person wrote their own stuff. I mean, not demeaning, like someone like Latifah or other people, but I mean, she was in the Flavor Unit. You gonna tell me she didn't have Lakim, Shabazz,
Or
or
Stretch.
Chill Rob G, yeah, or Apache or Tretch, and none of them kind
Hmm.
of write something up. You got the DOC on your roster, and his pen game is crazy, and Ren and Q's pen game is crazy, and they're not
Hmm.
going to write something up for you. And so, to me, this was kind of like the first time that we saw like this group approach where it was not a mystery of, oh, these two guys are the main writers in the group and they're writing for other people along with
Hmm.
DOC. And so I think that was definitely a shift in terms of we starting to see the contribution of others.
Hmm.
Initially we were led to believe like, oh, these guys, you know, I don't know who would think Easy E wrote those rhymes, but but it never was we didn't think Dr. Dre had pen game. We yeah, and so um in terms of Ren and Q, where would you rank them in your ratings of MCs? So first, let's start with Q. Now, Q lead voice on this album, one of the lead voices, one of the lead writers. Goes on, has probably a larger solo career uh, outside of the group of NWA. Um, in terms of your ranking of Cube as a lyricist, as a MC, where would you put him in your, top 20, top 50, top wherever you want to put him? I mean, would you of that era of MCs? Let's keep it to maybe 1990s.
1990s, he would be in my top. He was in my top 20 in the 90s. I would say,
Okay.
like, yeah, up to that point, yeah, he definitely would have been in my top 20, just because it wasn't necessarily him, giving us those tongue twisting like lyrics where you had to rewind over and over. It wasn't a
Right.
Rakim or G Rap or um, Big Daddy Kane type of rhyming.
Mm-hmm.
He was very visual. He painted such vivid pictures. And he was a one storyteller, and that's why him transitioning from music over to filmmaking was almost seamless, just because he was able to paint that picture, and you could actually visualize what he was actually talking about as far as the ills on the streets of South Central LA, and just living in California as a whole. So, and he was just menacing with the microphone. Now, we never really saw anyone like that before. Now,
Sure.
even though when you look at him stature wise, he's not that tall, but he just sounded like he was a much larger individual when it came to his rhyming because of his voice and his tone. And he just seemed like he was full of anger and everything, and it translated very well to what he was a nigga with attitude.
Definitely.
There's no other way of me putting it. So yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you, Ray. Now I probably would rank him in that area of like, top 20. I wouldn't say a top 10.
Nah, that couldn't
Yeah,
quite be
it wasn't like I mean, I thought he had very super solid songs. The imagery, um, you know, along with the visuals of, he's always under a constant snarl,
mm-hmm,
of this guy always being angry. It really fit, and it fit the group, and it fit his solo. You know, Ice Cube is one of our first rapper actors,
mm-hmm,
successful ones.
mm-hmm,
Kind of opened that door in terms of Cube, Latifah, and others. And so, we probably have to put Cube there for that. I think, probably America's Most Wanted was his best work. Some people would say Death Certificate or, other things, but I think that was his best work in terms of America's Most Wanted. And, the stuff that he did on the Straight Outta Compton album. In terms of Ren, I think Ren was just a solid MC. I mean, I
mm-hmm.
would never, I don't think I would put him in any rankings, but I think he was a solid voice in the group. It wasn't like, okay, we got a strong number one and then we pass off to a weak number two. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like Tupac and the outlaw outsiders. Or what are the outlaws?
Outlaws, right?
The outlaws, where it's his cousin and them.
Mm-hmm.
And Pac comes out with memorable 16s, and then he hands it off, and you turn off the rest of the record.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't do Ren like that, but I thought he was very solid MC.
No. I actually loved Ren. Actually, I checked a lot of NWA. I would gravitate towards Ren because he was a good counterpart to what you were hearing from Ice Cube and everything. As
Sure.
far as he was a little slicker when it came to his wordplay, and he sounded a little closer to what I expected of some of the East Coast MCs, versus maybe Cube or Dre or Easy E.
Mm-hmm.
Ren sounded closer to what I would listen to when it came to an MC from the East Coast. He wasn't, but he actually came a little bit closer than they did. But yeah, I loved Ren. I actually went out, copped his Final Frontier joint that he put
Okay.
out, which was pretty solid. He just didn't get the push that I think he deserved. But yeah, Ren was definitely um,
Yeah, and it was always so late. I mean, I wish that album
definitely
would have came out in their heyday. Like,
exactly.
Cube, he had the backing of the performance of this album that launches him straight into America's Most Wanted.
Hmm.
Now, although we can probably say Ren was like the featured voice on 100 Miles and Running,
Oh yes,
which
sir.
was, which to me is that was considered an EP. That wasn't even a full album.
No,
Um,
Ren was on his A game on there. Now
yeah,
it's like he really had something to prove because Cube was not there, so he really had
right.
to let his voice show. And then at the same time, even though we knew Dre did not necessarily write his rhymes, Dre was a hell of a MC that did not
Yes,
write rhymes now. So
that's right.
I have to give him his props. He delivered rhymes better than most people that actually wrote their rhymes.
Definitely. Definitely.
Mhm.
And so let's talk about Ren as a producer. Now this kind of like births the era of G Funk in a sense. They're using P Funk. And this is surprising, although they're using, you know, what we would call some West Coast songs. You know, they're using uh, Roger Troutman and Zapp. They're using some of
Mm-hmm.
these West Coast staple soul songs. It also has kind of like a Def Jam style type
Mm-hmm.
production to it. It's West, but it also is. You can bump that on the East. You really, if
We did.
someone maybe didn't tell you it was the West Coast, it felt very East Coast as well. What you think
Exactly.
about that?
Oh
Hmm.
no, I could definitely hear the influence of the East Coast. You could tell that Dre and to a lesser extent Yella, um, and all even Arabian Prince, they were students of the game when it came to the music, and they looked at the sampling, and they were also DJs, so they were able to craft something that was it was palatable to my ear now, so I can listen to it sonically, and it thumped, and everything now. So yeah, I love the production. The second album, Niggas for Life, took it to a next level when it came to the sonics, and that's the album that I think really put Dre at that point where you could hear where he was going, because his production was crystal clear from that point
Yes,
going forward. The first album, it sounded like a West Coast version of PE's second album now, almost now. So
sure.
you can hear that Bomb Squad influence with the production and everything. And like you said, it bumped in your Jeeps or in your instance a tracker. It definitely bumped now. Yeah, so the production was definitely dope with the samples and the use of not only like the funk samples, but those James Brown stabs and things of that nature. So yeah, I love the production.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've read some stuff. Questlove was talking about this, how these niggas for life
Mm-hmm.
and 100 miles and running, those were so tightly produced.
Mm-hmm.
Those were so clean. It was not the gritty hip hop album that, maybe came before. This was, polished production, polished
Mm-hmm.
keys, polished sound.
Mm-hmm.
Dre definitely brought that into the game, and it still was hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it was very, cutting edge in terms of what came out, and it thumped, and so it really worked to me. In his production, this is kind of like the first type of albums we saw with choruses or
Mm-hmm.
that were really aligned. It not that the other hip hop was like, the old school where, you rhyme for 16 minutes. They didn't have
Mm-hmm.
no choruses. But this was like a tight, 16 chorus, tight, tight, tight.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's what, Dr. Dre, in terms of his production style, that he brought that to hip hop in terms
Exactly.
of, the cleanliness of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we can't diminish the impact of Eff the Police. I'm trying to watch my language,
Well,
prompting
you
up.
let it slip the first time now, so I was
Yeah,
only
yeah. I
surprised
slept.
when that
Let
F
me keep on
bomb dropped.
going.
It's okay. It is okay.
It's hip hop. As I used to explain to my class, I didn't write the lyrics. We're
Mm-hmm.
just talking about it. Now,
Right.
if I
Right.
if I wrote it, Deacon Garland would say "F the police," but I didn't write that.
Right.
The other writers wrote it, so we're gonna use the words that they used, and so hopefully people are not offended. But yeah, fuck the police. It definitely had. I think the far-reaching impact of that rap is reporting of what's happening, and now people are really paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that reporting can be exaggerated, but I think at this point we're getting head on view of this is what life is like in our neighborhoods. This is what's going on in our neighborhoods, and you really did not have an outlet where that was being said. I mean, Prince wasn't saying it in his music. Michael Jackson wasn't saying it in his music. Wasn't being said in R&B,
Mm-hmm.
but it definitely you were getting that in hip hop. You were getting that in rap. Like, hey, the police are abusing us. The police are violating our rights. And I think this song is definitely kind of like we can credit it with being something that not only accelerates the rise of hardcore gangster rap into mainstream hip hop, but
Mm-hmm.
also viewing hip hop as a reporter of what's happening in your community.
True, true. I agree.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, when I was looking at the track list for this, and I took a little listen the day before we got together, and this album starts off very strong. It starts off with Straight Outta Compton,
Mm-hmm.
Fuck the Police, Gangsta Gangsta, If It Ain't Rough, Parental Discretion is Advised, 8 Ball Remix, and you got to express yourself a little bit further in there. I wouldn't say this is a no skipper, but it definitely had at least 5, or 6 pretty good jams on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I think it did well as an album, and I definitely, personally, I would rank it in like a canon hip hop album. I think it's a top 10 all time album.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because of not only it it puts the West Coast on the map, but also the impact of Fuck the Police
Mm-hmm.
as a kind of like a battle cry for young black people. It definitely had a major impact on the culture as a whole, or people universally. Where would you rank it in terms of your all-time albums, hip hop?
All time hip hop albums, it goes in my top. I would say probably 15.
Okay,
I, I'm hard pressed to place it in the top 10, but I'm gonna say maybe. Let me think for a second here, just to be.
no, I
Yeah,
think it's
I would
fair.
say top 15 of all time now, as far as hip hop albums, just because of uh the legacy and the influence and the family tree that it birthed, and then
Sure.
the content, the overall impact. And truth be told, this is one of those albums that was not designed to reach Middle America, but lo and behold, once the suburbs caught wind of this, now it pushed them to another level and everything now, inadvertently. So, yeah, definitely top 15 of all time now.
Definitely. It's funny you say that about this album. And there was a movie, as a matter of fact, I'm looking it up right now. Okay, White Boys. You ever
Oh
seen that
yes,
movie?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think, that movie really captures what NWA did for white communities. And so, like you said, you know, this album comes out. At that time, you were not getting a lot of radio play for any hip hop at all. So it was mostly
Mm-hmm.
underground. We got the launch of Yo MTV Raps,
Mm-hmm.
and these this music starts getting into white suburban neighborhoods, into white suburban homes. And,
Mm-hmm.
they're thinking that, oh, wow, the inner city's like this. This inner city's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
The police are always against you, those things. And so I think I agree with you that music, and it's NWA and it's these other groups that start to get into the mainstream for young white listeners, and it starts
Mm-hmm.
to pull in young white listeners, and they start to think that this is what the hood is.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, if if nobody's ever seen that movie, White Boys, is a film starring this guy named Danny Hawk. He was in Bamboozled as well. He played Timmy Hillnigger, and
Yep.
that was a funny movie as well. But it's about these kids. They live in Holyoke, Iowa, and they're seduced by gangster rap lifestyle, and they yearn to be African American, and so
Mm-hmm.
they they have a black friend that lives in the town, and he has some family members that live in Chicago and Cabrini Green, and so they try to convince him to take him to the hood because they want to see what the hood is like and all those things. And so, yeah, definitely, I think NWA, we can say, kind of like, exposed, I guess, the hood to white America.
They really did now, but
This album in particular.
exactly. But I think because of the impact and everything that transpired with Cube, inadvertently, leaving the group, and just a lot of other things transpiring. You could probably say that they almost became a caricature of themselves now. That
Sure.
they had to overcompensate with that gangster image and take it to another level. But it became an exaggeration almost of where they were from the first album. You can kind of see it going into the second album where they had to double down and be even more gangster than they were from the first album without Q being there, and with Dre being more prominent on the microphone, and everything. And I'm pretty sure some people probably have thought that now if they observed, the ascension of NWA, that they became, they caricatures of themselves and everything, so to speak. That's probably the best way I can put it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
I like that. As a matter of fact, I was just looking up. It's kind of like we start to see movies after that. CB4,
You're right.
Straight Out of Lil Cash,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
uh, Fear of a Black Hat. We
Mm-hmm.
saw that. Two great kind of like satire movies
Satire,
about
right?
how this gangster rap and it takes over and all of these particular things. And so yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
definitely see that. And I agree with you. It became, we get Boys in the Hood, the movie, and so it starts to become these old tropes of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the black kid in the single parent household, and they
Mm-hmm.
busting bullets outside. He got to run to school, and all
Mm-hmm.
his friends been shot before they were 16, and all that stuff. So yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely, I agree with you. Hey, bro, great discussion, man. Great discussion. I
Excellent.
appreciate this. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed this discussion about Straight Outta Compton. Next week, we'll be closing out our series, and we're going to talk about We Got the Jazz. We're going to talk about Low End Theory by A Tribe Called Quest, and we're going to focus on the expansion of sampling and the growth of hip hop further into the mainstream. Q-Tip, I think, he does get credit in terms of his production chops, but I think A Tribe Called Quest really kind of opens up the sound palette that producers could do, what producers could do with music. Up until that point, I think we were just mainly focusing on James Brown and funk and soul, and Tip opened up the door to jazz. It definitely gave me jazz ears. You would have thought I was a jazz head. Now I listen to jazz, but I can't say I did. I listened to jazz before A Tribe Called Quest, and
Oh
so
no, you're definitely
yeah.
right, man, about that. Now, and sorry to interrupt, but this
Go ahead.
next week is gonna be excellent because I'm such a tribe head now, and Q-Tip
All
is
right.
the biggest influencer. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that discussion next week. Now,
Fantastic. You got anything going on this weekend you want to mention if people in the North Carolina area want to check you out?
I have a wedding that I have to do in Graham, North Carolina. So I don't know if anybody's going to be a wedding crasher or anything next Saturday. But if you feel inclined to bum rush the wedding, by all means, it's going to be at the Graham Mill in Graham. But I have a wedding to do on Saturday. And then the following Saturday, I actually have an outdoor event in downtown Raleigh, at a area called Smoky Hollow, which it would remind you almost of like a harbor place or the gallery
Okay.
type of atmosphere, but it's going to be an outdoor, event and everything. So I'm going to DJ there for a few hours. So, just a couple of events over the next couple of weeks or so. I'm working on, I have a couple mixtapes that I've completed, but I need to drop them and everything. And I'm truth be told, with me producing, I have not made any beats in probably a couple years, and it's hard to believe. that I have not really like done any real production or anything, but I want to get back into maybe trying to do the production aspect. I have a lot of music in the can. I probably have close to 1,000 beats right now that I produced or
Wow.
I have. So I'm sitting on a lot of music that may be old to me, but it's new to someone else. So definitely. But I did want to take the time again, man, to send my condolences to you and your family, man, with the
Thank you.
passing of your mother in love, and send my prayers for Paula and the rest of the family, of course.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Where can people find you on Insta?
Oh yeah, for any of the social media, Instagram, just go to DJ Wisdom Beats, so the @ symbol DJ Wisdom Beats. Same thing with TikTok. You can pretty much just put in your search engine Wisdom Beats or DJ Wisdom Beats, and you'll find me out there. But definitely, DJ Wisdom Beats is the moniker that you can utilize to find me.
Fantastic, y'all. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We're going to be coming back with the sports talk with me and Calvin probably in the next week or two. We know some things have been happening in the sports world and all, and the NBA finals are going on. Hopefully they booing Trump. Hopefully I'll get there in time enough to watch this, so we'll see what happens tonight.
Mhm.
Maybe Trump will bring the Knicks some bad luck. We'll
Yeah,
see. And
we
so
shall see. We shall see.
we shall see. And so, everybody be easy, be safe. Thank you for tuning in. Let me hit this outro. Again, all of our music produced by DJ Wisdom Beats. And we'll check in with us on our next episode. This was an All Things Black with Calvin and Garland production. The original music used in this podcast was produced and used by permission from DJ Wisdom Beats. Thank you for listening, and make sure to follow us on your podcast platforms. Yeah. Bro, thanks again, man. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Well, a great week because it's just Monday. So I'm already taking you to the weekend. Have a great week and whatnot. And I appreciate you, man. Tell the missus I said hello. Don't
No
forget
doubt.
to let it download and then go ahead and click off and everything. So I'll holler at you next week.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit later on, man. You be blessed, okay?
All right, thanks, bro.
All right, talk to you later.
Peace.
Peace.